Jody, welcome to the Beyond the Tools podcast.
Thanks, Crystal. Glad to be here.
I'm super excited to chat with you because when I started getting more involved in this industry, I'm not sure originally how I came across you. It might have been Tommy Mello's podcast or something like that, but I knew you were the guy. But I have no idea how you've become the guy. So I'm curious how you got involved in the home services industry.
Yeah, I, will just give you the Reader's Digest version. I've didn't had no contact in the home service industry because my career was I was an executive at a power company in Florida. I left in my mid 40s, started a marketing agency, and got very good very quickly and got invited to speak on stages. And the first event I ever at, after I got through speaking, when I came off stage, there was a line of people there, and there was this one young man came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to be using this marketing for my own business. And I've got a garage door repair company. I'm going to revolutionize the garage door industry. I've got 3 trucks, but I'm growing, and I want to see if there's any way that I can get pointers from you." And that young man's name was Tommy Mello. And so we're friends. He and another person joined my coaching program back then on how to do marketing, and we just stayed friends along the way. Well, I still did the marketing agency, and then I went to work at Digital Marketer and worked at a couple of other places. I ran coaching programs for Russell Brunson and a few other people. About 5 years ago, I got approached by someone that said, "Hey, I've got this thing. Instead of doing marketing, I'm doing recruiting in the trucking industry. And I've got like 12 clients, but I'm facing some refunds. I can't figure out how to make this work. Can you maybe look at it and help me?" So I did, stepped in. It's like I helped them stave off all but one of the refunds, and because it was too far gone already. And I looked at it, I was like, I'm like, instead of doing marketing, doing recruiting for companies is easier because nobody's calling people to help them with that. So in the next 8 weeks, I went out and landed 12 trucking companies ranging from 50 to 500 trucks. And during that course of that time, my wife, who was also in that audience where Tommy Mello was, so she's known him as long as I have, she reached out to him and said, "Hey, Tommy, if you need to hire people, check out what we're doing." Not to sell him anything, but just so he could see how we were doing things, because we were not only bringing the leads in from using Facebook and Instagram and different sources, but we were running them through a qualifying process. And he's like, "Fly out here. I want to look at it." And that was 4 years ago. We kind of shifted away from the trucking industry, went full bore into home services because he kept telling everybody about us. And that's like I said, you probably heard about me on a Tommy Mello podcast. He's put me in his book, Elevate. Somebody called me the other day and said, "Hey, are you speaking at Home Service Freedom?" I'm like, "I don't think so." He's like, "Well, they're using you in the ads." So I was like, "Okay, maybe I am." But then it sort of grew from there. So in the last 4 years, we've worked with a little over 400 companies and successfully placed over 6,000 people in the last 4 years. So,
Wow.
we feel very proud of those statistics and the fact that our team works very diligently to help not only get people who are qualified by skill level or by that, but also that fit the culture of the company as well. So that's how I got into home services. Now that's all we do is home services. We don't work with any other industry but home services, and we get people all the time from the medical industry and different things, automotive industry calling us up, but our focus is home services.
Amazing. Yeah, and I know that's what we're going to dive into today, but I do have to ask because I'm looking at your logo on your shirt there, Talent on Tap. Why did you guys change the name from Rapid Hire Pro?
And so the thing with rapid hire is what was rapid is, communicating with candidates faster than humanly possible was kind of the tagline. And that was the rapid part, right? Because most of the time when someone applies to a position, it's dependent on somebody at the office looking at it and then reaching out to them, either texting them or calling them. And so by using automations, as soon as they opted in and filled out the application, the system and automations worked very rapidly. That was why it was. But people took it as to be, as soon as we got on a call, it's like, somebody quit last week. I need to hire somebody tomorrow. That's not the rapid part. So it does take a little while because we customize everything for every client, because everything is done in the customer's name, not in our name. No one knows our name, but the home service company. And it takes a couple of weeks to set all that up. And then once ads get running, and whether it's on Indeed or Facebook or Instagram, no matter where the ads are running, it takes a couple of weeks, sometimes 30 days, for the algorithm to learn who to show it to. And so that part was not rapid. So, and in looking at it in home services, every person that you hire in a home service company is a revenue generator. So, with our software solution, instead of it being an applicant tracking system, we call it a revenue workforce platform, because that's really what we're doing, is looking at bringing on revenue generators for every company that we work with. And the fact, you've always heard you should always be recruiting, you should always have your talent tap on. And by keeping it on, whether it's a fire hose, a regular flow, or a trickle, the talent should always be on tap. That way, if somebody leaves, you've always got somebody there on the bench to fill in, and that's the reason for the change.
That makes total sense. So I'm curious then, yeah, the typical approach, like you said, is that you hire when you have a vacancy. How do you help companies, or what do you recommend companies do to build that talent pipeline?
So part of it is, you should have, no matter what you're doing for bringing talent in, it should always be on, so that you don't have to start from scratch when someone does leave. So part of it is, whether you're having the ads on Indeed, whether you're running them on Facebook or Instagram, it's even dropping it down, even running it $1 a day, so that it stays active, so that it stays there, so that whenever you do need to ramp it up. The other thing that most people don't do is they have a whole stack of resumes and emails that they've got over the last year or so from people that applied or came in or it didn't work out. And people look at it as, oh, they scheduled an interview, but they didn't show up, and kind of write them off. And it could be anything reason that they didn't. The mindset usually is, oh, they're just trying to fill out their unemployment paperwork. But the fact is that there's still some good people in that stack, and going back and doing a re-engagement campaign to re-engage that. That's why we're talking about having a bench. People that come in, yeah, you don't have an opening right now, but we'll keep you in mind when the next one comes along. And you never know what time it is on their watch, because when you send that message, it could be, okay, yeah, now I'm ready to take that step. And you've taken them through the process. You know that they look and sound the way you want them to, that they have the skill set that you want them to have, that they have passed, they have the profile that you want them to have to be able to be a culture fit, so that you're not starting from scratch every time you have a vacancy, or that you have to add someone because you have increased your workload. So that's part of having it in place, always having that. And it's like you, I mean, with what you do with marketing, right? You don't just bring a customer in one time and send them one thing and quit, right? You have a list now. You go back and you send them a special, you send them an offer. It's the same
Yes.
thing, but most companies don't do that with that stack of people that they talked to over the last couple of years. There's still some good people in there. Let's just go back and say, hey, we've got an opening. You were interested at one time. What about now?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Yeah, if you get a lead who's interested in a new air conditioner and they hire another company, or they decide to wait till next summer to deal with it, it's you're not going to never contact them again. So why would you do that when it comes to recruitment? That makes a lot of sense.
And the way that we do things, and the way that anybody that you work with should do it, is they should be doing it in your name, your company name, and those leads belong to you. Right? I have people
Yes.
all the time that ask me. So it's the other thing with talent on tap. Sometimes people think we have a list of people that we can provide them. Like, that's not the tap. The tap is from running ads and making posts in your name to bring those leads in, but then they belong to them. We don't share
Yes.
leads across companies. Therefore, even if somebody comes in, if somebody is full and they don't want to hire right now, and they go into reserve, and if another company comes in, we don't share those leads, because they paid for them, right? So we
Mm.
wouldn't be around, we wouldn't have the success we did if we did people that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that brings up an interesting point. I know you talked there a little bit about the mindset sometimes with people just trying to fill out their unemployment papers. I think we also hear a lot of the mindset that people don't want to work anymore. But at the same time, a lot of times it feels like we're complaining about it, but not really looking at what we can do. So, what do you see in the mindset or the approach of the clients that you've worked with, the 400 plus companies that have successfully hired?
So part of it is, there are plenty of good people out there. It's just the way that you're positioning your offer is what's causing them to not take it seriously enough. Because we look at four things, and there could be one of these four things that's causing you not to be able to find those people that want to work. So for us, the first thing is that we look at is, what does your branding look like? Everybody knows, like Dan Antonelli's got his branded, not blanded book, and with all the different things, is that it makes it a lot easier to get people's attention whenever you have branding that catches their eye, right? Because no matter where you're at, whether it's on Indeed or Facebook or Instagram, they're going to see that visually, and that's going to catch their attention. Now, so the branding needs to be eye catching because we got to stop them scrolling. Next is your reputation. If you have 4.3 stars with 6 reviews, not a lot we can do because people go look at that and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Or if you have 300 reviews and you have 4.3 stars, that's on the edge of people thinking, hey, there's a problem there. So really it needs to be, above 4.5. Then we look at your pay package. Whenever people come and they go, yeah, we're going to have, we need somebody with 5 years experience. We're going to pay them $28 an hour, but we don't really have benefits. It's like, there's not really much I can do for you, because today, almost anywhere you go in the US or Canada, for a technician, typically, if you're not offering them a career path to 100K plus, they're not even looking at it. That doesn't mean you have to pay them that to start with, but you have to show them a path to get there. So your pay package and your benefits. Well, everybody these days are expecting, health, dental, vision, 401k, that kind of thing. But what are the other benefits? What are the benefits that most people don't advertise? Like company truck that you take home. Now that you take the truck home, are you able to dispatch from home? Those kind of things. Are you able to spend time with your family? Or do you have a special work shift like it's 410s? Or for like an electrical service industry or HVAC, is it that you have no on call? Now people have said, how do you do no on call? I'm like, well, you do shifts. There's a way to do it. So those are benefits that most people don't put out there. The other thing is, after that is audience size. And your audience size, needs to be at least 500,000 people in about a 30-mile radius if you're looking to hire people with 3+ years experience. Now, the reason I say that is because with that audience size, how many people in that audience of 500,000 people have 3 years experience being an HVAC technician that you want to hire? So that population goes from 500,000 to how many? And then that information has to be put in front of them. So the reason that people are not finding people they say they want to work is one or two or three of those things is not matching what needs to be in order to get their attention to cause them to want to come there. I walk people through that every day, and we turn people away when we tell them, look, this isn't going to work. I'll give you ideas of what you can do to change this or to help it so that you can start getting those results. But right now, until those things happen, it's going to be a struggle. So there's people that want to work, they just don't want to work for you.
Hmm. Yeah, so having that offer, really having intention there and thinking about how you can stand out so that if somebody is with another company, then they are more likely to consider you and actually put their name forward.
And part of it is, said we look at it, there's two different groups of people. There are the 30% of the active workforce that's on Indeed. Those are the people that are actively looking for a job. And you should be there. You used to say, oh, that everybody comes like Indeed doesn't work. Like, well, it does. You're just not working it right. And then the other there's 70% of the job market that are passive job seekers, meaning if they saw a better opportunity than where they're currently at, they would take a look at it. And that's where Meta or Facebook and Instagram ads come into play, because now you're showing them a better opportunity. They're scrolling through, they're looking at their neighbor's kid's soccer game or somebody's vacation, and then boom, here's an ad for coming to work for your company as an HVAC technician, and you have a clear path to 100K plus, blah blah, all these things. First of all, you have to get them to stop scrolling, take a look at it, click it, put their information in, go to the next step, fill out an application, and then go through a qualifying process. So that's getting in front of them whenever they're not necessarily looking for a job, but seeing a better opportunity. And that's really the name of the game, is hiring experienced people, is doing it that way.
Mm. So, yeah, on that note, I'd love to dig into that qualifying process a little more. Why is qualifying important and what does that typically look like for most companies?
Right. So most companies look at qualifying as, do they have the qualifications, the skills to meet the job requirement? So I look at, we really dig into looking at the company, looking at their core values. What are their core values? What is their mission? Then what are those qualifications that they really are looking for in order for it to be a culture fit? Because culture becomes just as important as the skills. So with that, I always give this example. So the TV show The Office, if you take Dwight Schrute and you put him on SEAL Team 6, they will kill him. If you take a SEAL, Navy SEAL, and put him in the office, they will kill Dwight and Michael, right? So either one doesn't work. And I know those are extremes, but that's really, you want to see that they fit the culture. And one of the things we ask a lot of companies is, if your company was a TV show, what would it be, right? Because
Mm.
that helps us understand the personality. That also helps us develop the copy in the ads. Because just like advertising for customers, you have to be creative in advertising for employees. So we don't start off with must have this, this, and this, because that would be like an HVAC company going, if you're a homeowner with a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with at least a 3-ton air conditioner, and you pay your bills on time and have a 750 or higher credit score, we will come to your house and do work. You may qualify, but that's how most people run job ads. You have to have this and this and this. And then if you do, we may talk to you. Instead, we flip it where we talk about the culture of the company, the focus of the company. And then we kind of go through what the job is, and then the requirements are the last thing, because we want them sold on the company. And then
Mm.
because it's easy enough to find out if they have the skills that's needed, but we need to understand the other part. So once they fill out the application, the first thing we have them do is a one-way automated video interview. That way, they click a link, they send a text message, they click a link, the app opens up on their phone, and the first question comes up. They read it, it counts down 3, 2, 1, the camera comes on, and they record their answer. Any 4 to 5 questions that the client would like to hear them answer. Next step is we take them to do a soft skills assessment. And this is not, do they know how to sweat a fitting or charge a unit? This is their decision making processes. Like I said, one of the questions, if you come across a situation you've never seen before, do you call your supervisor, call a friend, watch a YouTube video, or do the best you can? That's kind of a high level one, but those kind of questions to understand how they think. And then finally, if they pass that, the next step is a DISC profile. So within each one of these is abbreviated. It only takes them like 3 to 5 minutes to do it because they haven't been hired. And once they're hired, you can do culture index or whatever the other ones are that you want to do, the 6 working geniuses, because they take more time and you've already hired them. You're just qualifying them here. So with an abbreviated DISC format, you're able to see, are they dominant? Are they an influencer? Are they a steady relator or a cautious thinker? Which one is the highest? Because with your service technicians, you want them to be a high I followed by D, and your installers need to be S and C, steady relator, cautious thinkers. Because your service technicians are going house to house, call to call. You got to have that personality. They have to be able to sell. They have to be able to influence. And your installers are going to a job. They're picking up the duct work. They're picking up the units. They're going out. The air handlers are going out, and they're doing one job usually. And they're following a plan. So they're 2 different personalities. And if you try to make an installer a service technician, they're unhappy. And if you try to make a service technician do install work, they're unhappy. Sound like when I worked at the power company. How do you make a crew mad? Give them streetlights. How do you make a crew happy? Give them streetlights. Just depends on which crew it is. Right? So you have to understand. I learned that the hard way before I even knew what DISC was. But then, what we have is our account managers look at all this ahead of time so that we only present to our clients the ones that look like they best fit the avatar they're looking for. So we
Mm.
use a people analyzer to kind of go through that, kind of like the OS model of get it, want it, can do it, in order to be able to put them in front of them. And the biggest thing we ask for is feedback on, if you do want to interview them, great, why? And if you don't, why? We need to know so we can get better at narrowing it down. But that's a very long answer to your how does the qualifying process work. But it's basically application. Oh, by the way, we don't require a resume on our applications, because if a person's not actively looking for a job, do they have a resume ready to upload? Probably not. However, I guarantee you 90% of the people watching this podcast, if I went to their careers page and I opened it up where they fill out the information, uploading a resume is a required field. That's a stumbling block that sends people away. They don't finish the process, right? So we don't require it because we're asking questions on the application that they typically don't put on a resume anyway. A resume is just the best stuff about you, and AI writes most of them these days. So we asked their work history. We also ask them questions like about their driving record, right? Have they had a speeding ticket? Have they had a DUI? Have they had any of these things? And then also their criminal history, so that we can identify right away whether or not they should move, because they could be the best technician or installer on the planet, but if they got a DUI last year, they are uninsurable, and there's no reason to talk to them.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to give them a driver, and that's very few and far between.
Absolutely. That actually, the point about not asking for a resume just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it's so smart. My stepdad, sidebar story, but my stepdad is in the trades and was a new job opportunity came up and he was like, Crystal, I need you to write a resume for me. And I was like, oh, like, and then I'm like interviewing him, trying to figure out,
Right.
what he did, what years and stuff. But yeah, he hadn't looked at a new job in like 15 years, so he didn't have a resume.
Right. So it would have been very easy for him to go in and just answer a few questions on a mobile form in order to be able to. The other thing is, make sure that it's mobile friendly. Most people's career pages where you fill out the information is not mobile friendly. So they
Yeah.
have to leave their phone and go find a computer to sit down to fill the thing out. So, always making sure that it's mobile friendly and easy to fill out. Drop downs with check the box, fill out the information very simply. You got to make it as easy as possible, because that's how you're able to start finding those people that do want to come work for you.
Absolutely. Just removing those barriers that are really done by default, not because they're necessarily adding any
Right.
value.
And then we also get the question, which may have been your next question, is does there fall off because people don't want to do these steps? And the answer to that question is yes. So, I mean, because the people that come from social media, only about half of them are going to go through the process, because a lot of times they're just seeing what it is. So that's not the same intent as the people that are on Indeed. But when you have somebody that does the video interview and they do these steps, then, and also we don't just send it one time and quit. I mean, we're marketers. Come on, we nurture them. We send them something every day, a different text message, different email every day, getting them to take that next step, and all the way through that process. When we get through the process, those people that meet the qualifications typically want to be there, and they're going to be a better fit than somebody, because usually it's the older generation that doesn't want to do the video interview. But the thing is that if they're very interested in it, they will respond back to the text and go, I'm sorry, I don't really feel comfortable doing that. They'll at least respond back instead of just not doing it. And then you have the ability to make the decision, okay, well, do these other two, do this disc and profile and do this part, and then let's talk. So you have ways of doing that. You don't have to make them do it, but the more they do, the better chances of them being a fit is going to be.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And you kind of hinted at this, but I'm sure for some people listening who have never approached recruitment this way, yeah, there's a lot of steps, but that also sounds like it takes a lot of time. How do you make sure that applicants are going through that process, and what's the actual timeline look
Sure.
like?
So for the most part, they can do, because as soon as they finish the video interview, they don't. It does. The system doesn't wait. When it's done, it knows. The system knows, and it instantly says, "Great, we have your video interview. We're taking a look at it. The next step is only to 3 to 5 minutes. The next step is our soft skills assessment. Here's a link. Go do it now." Right. And then if they don't do it, then we remind them. They can go through the whole process if they from start to finish in 15 minutes. If they sit down and just do it start to finish. Most don't. Most do the video interview and then they get the thing and they wait a day or so and then they'll do the other. So usually you're looking at about 2 to 3 days for people to go through the steps. Some people go through the steps, they don't do it for 2 or 3 weeks. It's on what time it is on their watch, right? So, but they're always getting nurtured, and even after they go through the whole process, if it's if they would put them into a nurture sequence for long term. But if they're very interested, they can go through the whole thing. Like I said, video interview is how long it takes them for a minute and a half for 5 questions. Then after that, and we don't give them a second shot. They got to answer the question. We want to know they can think on their feet. The soft skills assessment, they can do it in 3 to 5 minutes. The disc profile, they can do it in 3 to 5 minutes. So all total, they sit down and do it start to finish.
So, Jody, as we're talking through this, I'm just thinking about what home service company owners, what they would be wondering if they've never approached recruitment this way, if they've done it the traditional way.
Right. So when I do a presentation, I have this 3-part slide, and it goes through here's what happens when you're doing it yourself. You have to write the job description, you have to create the ad, you have to do this, you have to place it, you have to do all this stuff to get a lead. Then you have to call the lead, text the lead, get an application filled out, make sure to then qualify them with us. You come around and call them, usually with a pre-screening call. Then you schedule the interview. Then you have they come in for the interview. But first, you got to get them to show up for the interview, and then finally hire them. Some have used a recruiting software, and yet all it does usually is post your job descriptions on the job boards. It doesn't do any of the other stuff. So what we do is our team takes your information, and we create the ads and write the copy and do all those things, and our system does the texting and emailing. When they look at that, they're seeing dollar signs. Here's the thing: if they've always done it in house and they have one person doing it, it's taking their time. And it's kind of like the Dan Martell book, Buy Back Your Time. What could that person be doing if they had a lot of those hours back that they're spending going through that process and chasing? Because a lot of times it's the owner doing it. I mean, it's sometimes there's somebody else, but sometimes it's the owner actually doing that, or somebody on the leadership team. And that's not a leadership team function, right? So basically, if you look at it, every person, because you focused on HVAC, right? Every person in a home service company, like HVAC company, you have to look at what is your UMR, right? In our marketing agency, we talk about MRR, right? Monthly recurring revenue. But in the recruiting world, we look at UMR. And what is the unrealized monthly revenue from an empty truck sitting out in the yard? Right? For most companies, it's somewhere between $30,000 to $50,000 a month of unrealized revenue from that truck sitting empty, from that van sitting empty, from it not running. So what I tell them is that most people are looking at recruiting as a cost, but really it's a revenue amplifier. By bringing people in, by bringing skilled people in that can go in, that can do the work, that are going to have the right mindset, that fit the culture, that are happy to come to work, that are ready to go, they're generating that revenue, it becomes pennies to dollars whenever it comes down to having someone help you do this. So it's a lot of times it's kind of like the story about the dog on the front porch. The guy comes up and there's a dog and he's like moaning. He's like, oh, it's like, what's wrong with that dog? He's like, well, he's sitting on a nail. He's like, why doesn't he move? He goes, I guess it's not uncomfortable enough yet. And that's the thing, right? It's just that it's not uncomfortable enough yet in order to take that step. But with the companies that do, once they take that step, it's like you don't realize what you're missing until you actually have the ability to have people that go through that process that kind of take it and do the things. Because like I said, you're doing these companies trying to do the recruiting themselves. That would be like the homeowner trying to work on their air conditioning themselves, right? The homeowner's not going to do a great job working on the air conditioner. It's the same kind of thing. That there's a reason that we've had 6,000 successful placements is we've kind of figured out a few things along the way. Like, so we got started 4 years ago. We learned a lot of lessons in the meantime. So that's why we've come a long way and kind of identifying the culture fit. We didn't used to do it that way. We just like, hey, what are your requirements? Let's go get you people to fit the requirements. Well, now we want to look at not only the requirements of the skills, but also the requirements of the culture to make sure that they fit when they come in. So that's another very long answer to your short question, but that's the whole thing of what most people look at it as they're just not uncomfortable enough to take a step to do something about it.
Mm, absolutely. Wow. Well, Jody, I feel like you have really given so many incredible nuggets about how to recruit much more effectively and efficiently. And of course, you guys can't work with everyone, but I'm sure that so many of our listeners are going to want to learn more about you and Talent on Tap. So, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Here's the thing: there's not a schedule a call button on our website. You go on our website, there's a button, but in the spirit of Talent on Tap, that button says, let's get it on. So right at the top left of the screen on talentontap.com, there's a button that says let's get it on. You click that, answer a few questions, schedule a time that we'll get on a call. And we don't do sales calls. We want to understand what your needs are because we might not be the right fit, but we want to help. If there's a gap, help you identify how to fill that gap in what you're currently doing. And if there's a way that we can help, then we'll talk about how that works. But that's how we go about doing it. Because like I said, we can't help everybody. Not everyone's a perfect fit. Like I said, no one walks away from the call without getting value. But yeah, it's the let's get it on button. And if they happen to go to our old name, which was Rapid Hire Pro, it's going to send them right over there to do the same thing.
Perfect. Thank you, Jody. So we'll put the links to Talent on Tap in the show notes as well, so you can connect with Jody there. But thank you, Jody. This has really
Yeah,
been
absolutely.
a pleasure.
You got it. Glad to be here. Happy to do it.